their Sunday morning, whatever it's called.
Revival.
I guess it's revival. I don't know what they call it.
We're unofficial now,
Their
right?
gathering. We'll just call it that way.
So was it an open gathering?
Yeah, they have a tent that they put up and take down.
Really?
Yep.
That's kind of cool.
Okay. So we are live on YouTube, just so you know.
I
So
seen that. Hello,
Nate's
Bill.
on, Bill's on, you're on, I'm on.
You can't see me yet. I am here, I promise.
There you are. Your handsome face,
Smiling mug.
gray beard.
Gray beard.
Oh my, yeah, gray beard. I like that. You can be part of the Hobbit.
That's what I'm going for.
Gandalf Greybeard.
My daughter had some bunchies in my beard a couple of days ago, and it was amusing.
It was what?
It was amusing.
Oh,
I didn't realize that they kind of pull on your face, or I guess your hair, if you wear them in your hair, that you feel some constant pressure pulling on your scalp. I had no idea.
Yeah.
It was not pleasant. Do they still have a clean shaven protocol at the church office building?
yes. But there's hardly anybody in the church office building.
Oh,
Everybody's
really?
working from home.
But you're not at home right now, are you?
I'm actually at my office. I'm an essential employee. I
Oh,
never.
well,
So I have an office at home. I have an office in my office, and I have an office in my truck.
okay. So
24/7.
are you at home at the office, or are you at the office,
I'm at the office.
which is not Salt Lake though, is it?
No, it's on Second. It's the church on 113 Childs Avenue.
Okay.
Yeah, so I occupy that northeast wing.
That's right behind that the old Wangs Guards, right? Ridley's or whatever it was there.
Where they're building the huge apartment complex.
Yeah,
I think it's 4 floors, maybe only three.
right there north of Harbor Freight.
Yes. There's a lot of affordable housing being built in Ogden, as an FYI. I mean, apartments are popping up everywhere. On Second Street,
The bad thing is guess how much it's gonna cost to live there most likely.
you think expensive?
Probably, I think the cheapest I've ever seen was about 700, 800 bucks.
Yeah, I heard most of these apartments on Childs, and I don't know if they're going to punch the road through. I don't think the church sold them the property. I hope they don't punch the road through, or that's going to become a major thoroughfare. But most of those housing are Section 8.
Are they?
Well, I know some apartments that are in North Ogden, because I was trying to help someone find an apartment. The cheapest one was like 1,300 bucks.
That's
Yeah,
what,
I wrote in that email. My apartment downtown was $1,000, and it was only a one-bedroom apartment. It was only 800 square feet, which was pretty good sized for a temporary arrangement for a one guy, kind of batching it a little bit, but
still a lot for an apartment.
it was a lot. And
My first apartment was 400 bucks. It was awesome.
Yeah, so my wife and I, the first 5 years, we actually lived in a mobile home. And the thing that was bad about that is the trailer was paid for, but the rent just went up all the time for no reason because it can. I can't remember what we was paying a month for a lot fee. I think it was $350. But back in 1980, oh no, when did I get married? 79.
I won't tell you what I was doing in '79.
You was,
I wasn't even thought of yet.
what was you doing, Bill? Was you born yet?
I was in kindergarten though.
So that put you at about 50, 53. Yes?
No, I was born in '74.
Oh, that doesn't help. Do the math for me.
I'm 45. I'll be 46 in October.
Sorry that I offended you. You look older. It's that beard.
It's the beard. That's why I wear it. I don't get any credibility with my baby face if I shave it off. So
Does your wife like it?
she does.
I had a stash for the first 20 years we were married, and then I shaved it, and my wife said it'll never come back.
She said it would never come back.
Yep. And I'll have to show you pictures. My stash made Tom Selleck's look embarrassing.
Oh, really?
Really.
Did you curl it around on the edges? Did you have that going on?
Oh, no, I just kept it because I was at the church, but I kept it,
Yeah.
you know, to the upper lip, and I made sure that it didn't keep food in. I had an employee that had so much hair that would grow into his mouth.
Yeah.
And every time he'd eat, you'd see his leftovers for hours afterwards. It's like, that is just disgusting, dude.
That's pretty gross, but it does. I mean, I try to keep mine pretty clean. I clean it every day when I shower and things, but it just and I put a little product in it to help it so it doesn't get dry and frizzy. But yeah.
All right. Well, looks like we've got Jim aboard. Hello, Jim.
Hello.
We got Jim and Nate.
Nate, how are you?
Ashley should be hopping on. Andy should be hopping on.
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good. I think Julie said she'd be on, right?
Julie, I got a text message. Her grandbaby. Hold on, she just texted me again. I need to stay another night if I can. She may not be coming. She's helping with the grandbaby.
Well, we have a quorum, right?
Well, we're supposed to, not yet. We've got 3 of you. We need 1 more.
Welcome, Brent. I think you're muted if you said anything.
That better?
Yeah, there you go. How are you?
Good. How you guys doing?
Good.
Okay, we've got Andy on. We've got a quorum if you would like to start.
Yeah, just a few seconds. I'll wait until it shows 6 o'clock before we start, if that's okay.
No, that's just fine. It's your meeting.
City's meeting. Got to be a pretty good meeting to be better than no meeting at all, a wise man once said.
It's a pretty good meeting to beat no meeting at all.
Okay, we've got Alicia on as well.
Okay,
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Alicia.
welcome.
Hey.
Okay, well, I have 6 o'clock. We'll go ahead and officially start our Pleasant View Planning Commission meeting for July 16th.
Did you get?
What's that?
Nothing, you're good.
Did I get the date wrong?
No, I think noise came through.
Okay. I'd like to welcome everybody, and everybody who's joined us on YouTube, welcome as well. So we'd like to begin with having an opening prayer or a reading or expression of thought. If somebody would like to volunteer for that, please. Jim, will you volunteer for us?
Who you say, Jim?
Yes.
Okay, sure. I'll do that.
Thank you.
Father in heaven, we're grateful for the community that we live in and the blessings that we have in this community. We ask that thy spirit should be with us as we ponder the initiatives that are set before us, that we may make decisions that will be the best possible outcome for all concerned. We ask that we should be inspired when we're not in these meetings and we do our studying, that we may continue to learn to perform the tasks in a better manner. This we pray for in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Uh, As usual, we'll forego the Pledge of Allegiance because of the delay. It's kind of disrespectful in my opinion. But we would like to ask at this time if there's any members of the Planning Commission, as they have reviewed the agenda, are there any conflicts of interest that need to be divulged? None? Okay. Then with that, I'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda and the minutes on the July 2nd Planning Commission meeting.
I'll make that motion to approve the agenda and the minutes.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Now to ask for anybody who is opposed under this format. But we'll be all right.
I
Okay.
would say that these minutes were a Herculean effort that took many hours and several staff members to accomplish. So
I already praised Jill. She said Heather helped, and that looked like a Herculean task. It really did.
Heather did amazing
yeah,
for the record.
they're great, and they'll be helpful when the discussion moves on to the city council. So that's why we took such great pains to make sure they were done well.
Good. Well, thank you for that.
You bet.
All right, our first item is will be a public hearing, and it's a discussion decision to deny or approve, recommendation to deny or recommendation to approve to the city council a proposed rezone from RE20 to CP2 on parcel 17-050-0019, 17-060-0003, and 17-060-0064, which is east of 600 West on 2700 North. The applicant is Brent Bailey. He is with us tonight. And Jill, we'll turn it to you.
Okay. So, okay, here we go. We have Brent Bailey's, there it is. So as you know, it is located, here's 600, 2700. It's not necessarily the corner. It's just in between the corner lot and Pleasant Meadows. There's 3 parcels right there. Currently, it is zoned RE20. There's a little piece that has carried over from the PUD, but the general plan, or the future land use map and general plan shows commercial, and that's exactly kind of what we're hoping for. The owners of the 2 parcels, so these 2 right here, are owned by Brent Bailey. And then this is actually one parcel. If we go up, you can see right here. That is owned by Northview Church, but it's called New Life Northview. That's who owns it. So they would own this and these 2, and the request is to be CP2. I did get some phone calls, comments on the rezone, which I did send out to you guys today. Which it was kind of confusing, but bear with me. Most of them they told me where they were, which was either the White Barn or Pleasant Meadows. There was some concerns on the noise, which the church was working on. There was concerns with how high the buildings are, which I did confirm to them that this is not part of the rezone. That would be part of the site plan. There were a couple that were against commercial. They wanted to just be able to have the residential. And then I had quite a few that were for the commercial, was excited to see what it would bring. And then there was the concern of it would bring more traffic onto 2700 than what people wanted to see. So those were the concerns that I did get. Here's just a drawing layout. Again, this is just a concept. It's not what's set in stone. So as you can see, the church would still own this parcel off to the east. And then Brent would develop this part as well. which Brent can speak to that. I'm assuming he's helping them, with some of the development and whatnot. So staff is actually recommending approval, as it does go with what we're hoping for with commercial. But yeah, that's what we've got. Do you guys have any questions for me before you head over to your open hearing?
I don't have any. Commissioners, any questions to Jill or Bill before we open to a public hearing?
I've got one. Is the church a co-applicant or are they
The
present?
The church has actually signed an affidavit to allow Brent to be the applicant for them.
Okay.
Is this the same, is this the Valley View Baptist Church moving?
Yes, the one that has had the tent,
What's that?
the one that had the tent up.
No, I'm talking about the one on Washington Boulevard in North Ogden.
No, the people that own the parcel, their church is actually in Far West.
Okay. So I guess, Jill, I would have a question that shows one access point off of 89 or off of 2700 North. That's UDOT has granted that, correct?
That would be part of the site plan and things like that, but that would be something that we would require to have approval from UDOT, which Brent knows that.
Okay, I'll talk to him about that. And then the other was, will there be an access to this development from 600 West?
I would assume when that other parcel probably develops, it could.
Yeah, we would require that as part of the site plan approval, that they do a cross-access agreement and easement for the property to the west to be accessed.
So a different property owner, correct?
Yeah, so we're limited what we can require Brent and the church to do at this point because it's on another person's property. But when we go through the site plan process, we would require that access to be granted to and from the adjacent properties. Make sure there's parking lot stub outs, and if they're doing a road, we would do a road over through there too. So,
okay, great. Any other questions, commissioners?
That was my question, was the road, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. So with that, I'll entertain a motion that we open our public hearing.
Make a motion, we open a public hearing at this time.
And a second, please.
I'll second it.
And all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, we'll ask Brent if he'd come forward, please, and or Zoom forward, I guess is the proper terminology. State your name and address, please.
Brent Bailey, 4215 Alder Creek Drive, Pleasant View.
Okay, thank you. What would you like to share with us? Do you have maps or drawings or anything? Jill just dropped them off her screen.
Jill's got the only drawing we have at this point. We're in agreement on the cross traffic agreement. We haven't gone anywhere with it, and it may not be something that happens in the initial phase. Ours can get dedicated that way, but I think it would have to wait till the other piece develops to get the other half of the agreement.
Is that through UDOT as well? Or
Well, UDOT will require it. If they give us access, they'll require cross traffic.
and you've been in communication with the current property owner to the west?
No, I have not.
Not at all. Okay. All right. Well,
We will, but we're not to that point yet.
personally, I like what you've conceptually shown. I think staff has done a good job. They have all the checks marked off from the fire department and engineering, and so it looks good. Commissioners, any questions to Brent or for Brent? Really, that easy? We haven't had one of these forever.
We don't have any comments on YouTube either at this moment.
I have a question. Can I ask a question?
Please.
So Brent, with your proposal, I know that do you have any tenants or people who have approached you as possible, development within what you're thinking?
No, we haven't advertised it or anything. There's one building that has a user plus the church.
Okay.
He's gonna move the EK Bailey headquarters over to Pleasant View.
There you go.
Are you really?
No.
No.
Oh, well, why not?
Well, if I did,
He's tired of that long commute.
I got enough traffic troubles with trucks where I'm at.
Um, okay, I guess you can't speculate on other properties that you may expand and purchase along that road, but that would be really cool if you did. But anyway,
We'd love to have you get a Trader Joe's in there.
Always looking.
grocery stores, restaurants, heck yeah.
The hotel would be awesome.
I'm still okay with the Dairy Queen.
Restaurants first, grocery stores. Anyway,
So Brent, is this a property that has been purchased by yourself or the developer? You're the developer, obviously, or is it leased?
No, we own it.
All right, any other questions? No, if not, then I'll entertain a motion that we approve or deny the rezoning.
Close the public hearing first.
Oh, sorry.
Make a motion that we close the public hearing at this time.
Thank you, Andy. And a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Public hearing is now closed. Now, at this point, commissioners, any comments?
Just as a quick question, as from a standpoint now that it's just a discussion among us.
Okay.
I like the idea. I like the fact we're changing our zoning towards what's on our master plan, working towards a commercial. Just as for a group, we ought to have a quick discussion. The fact we're moving to a more of a commercialized, is there anything in our, we looked, Jill was nice enough to provide us the list. Does anybody see any negatives? Because we're basically giving the developer a blank slate at this time to say, hey, develop whatever you want that's on that list once we change that zone. Does anybody see any negatives on that list to turning that loose? Once we change that zone, we're basically saying, go ahead and build anything on that list that anybody. So that's the one thing I just want to point out at this time, because he's given us a preliminary drawing, which is what he's supposed to at this time, and he doesn't have to, but he's just asking for that zoning. So that's why I just want to remind the commissioners.
Thank you. And there's quite a bit that is permitted on CP2, and some items are conditional. So we would have to wait until the actual application comes in, and then we can have this discussion further. But
no, that's not true though, right? Because once we've zoned it, it's now permitted. He can put it on there if he wants to.
So anything that is under a P or a C, it is permitted if it's granted. That means they can have it.
so on a CP2, say for a bus terminal, we have a C. Well, that's conditional, right?
It's permitted with conditions. So the key word is it is permitted.
But we can stipulate conditions if we deem necessary.
Yes,
So the
but we have to do
conditions-
that beforehand.
The
But we-
conditions have to be spelled out in the code.
But we don't already have those conditions spelled out.
Nope. So that's what we're gonna start doing after this meeting.
So we could have a car lot SP2, right? Or CP2.
Correct.
So there could be a car lot there is what I'm pointing out.
That's a good place for a car lot. My opinion. That's just my opinion.
No, but that's why I'm just making sure that everybody's aware of what's the possibilities there on that spot.
He just wants to make sure everyone feels comfortable with it.
Yeah, so we
I
have,
like the corridor. I like what we're doing.
Yeah.
I'm very
I
aware
saw
of it.
And I thought, that's what 2,700 is for. I was
Yep.
excited. I said, yay, finally. We don't have a big old confrontation. Yay. That's what I was thinking. That's my opinion. So,
I'm looking through the list and I don't have any concerns. I mean, the one that I seen right off the bat was a liquor store.
it's 2,700.
So Andy, did that answer are you okay?
I'm good. I'm fine with it. I'll be happy to make a motion.
Okay, please do then.
I'll make a motion that we recommend the zoning change to the city council with the recommendations from the staff for the changes, and that we make a recommendation to move forward at this time as the zoning changes outlined on the stated above.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion happily.
Any further discussion? If not, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Thanks, Brent, for your time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Brent.
Okay, administrative. Item number 2 is discussion decision on a proposed 7-lot subdivision named Harris Hill Phase 4, located on 1075 West above 4150 North. The applicant is Carson Jones.
Okay. That's a lot of papers here, so let me get this ready. Okay. There we go. So Harris Hills. There we go. Okay. It is, I don't know if you can identify this area. Here's 4,300 up top. This is 900 west. 1,100 is right here off to the side. So this is where phase 1 and phase 2 and then phase 3 of Harris Hills. Phase 4 is pretty easy. There's 7 lots and it's going to go up this way and have a temporary turnaround. Right about there. So that's where the location is. I know you guys will ask about detention. We have a 1 detention basin for all the phases, which is right here. The utilities, the water, the plan is to have it go up, which Dana and Tyson have approved. They're good with it. So here's the layout. So there's seven lots, pretty easy. 3 on one side, 4 on another. Right here, it's already, that road's already there. So they're just going, I want to say, don't quote me, about 404 feet. Carson can correct me if I'm wrong. The smallest lot is 20,001 square foot. So all 7 of them meet the requirements for the RA20 for the size. The shortest frontage, actually it's kind of, okay, the shortest frontage is 113.13 feet, which again, that meets the requirements. There is right here just a little restricted use easement. Thanks, Carson, for putting that on there. Appreciate that. There's 60-foot right of way, which is the standard, which is great. So we will have an easement right here for the temporary turnaround, so that way the fire department can turn around any emergency vehicle and it's safe. So there's just a few minor corrections on the plat, which Carson's gonna get working on for the final. And yeah.
Will that be asphalt turnaround?
It will be up to city standards, which I believe, off the top of my head, now you're gonna make me think. Bill, it's supposed to be asphalt, right? Just not curb and gutter.
Right, depending on how long it takes them to get it done. So if it's going to be in for more than a year, then we ask him to asphalt it. If the additional phases that will eventually punch through to 4,300 are going to take place before 12 months, then it can be just an improved surface.
Right. So it just depends on how fast they want to get it done, which I would assume Carson probably wants to get it done, huh?
Yeah, we have no plan on asphalting that.
Carson doesn't have anything else going on or on his plate at all, so this is it for him.
Well, let me ask this question, staff. Since that's a temporary turnaround and since there's no plan for asphalt, if an emergency vehicle needed to get there during the winter with 3 feet of snow, how are they gonna turn around? How's that gonna work?
It's plowed.
Yeah,
It's
we would still plow it.
So you would plow you have road base there, Carson?
Yeah,
Okay,
just like we've always done it.
sure.
so, and yeah, it would be safe.
It looks pretty straightforward to me. Commissioners, any question for staff? Or I guess I should have invited you up, Carson, say your name and address. This isn't a public hearing, but we can certainly ask you questions as well. So if you do that, I'd appreciate it.
Carson Jones, 1106 West, 4050 North, Pleasant View.
You've done all of these phases, haven't you, Carson?
Yes.
Well, it's a nice development that's going on up there, in my opinion. So,
These are all spoken for already too. So
wow.
we're going to move right into the next one very quickly.
So let me ask you a question. It's just kind of a personal one. Has this COVID thing, has it slowed down building or real estate or anything?
I think it's more ramped it up.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Interesting. So people are looking into the future and they're grabbing while they can.
I think so. This has definitely been it slowed down for about a week, maybe 2, and it just came back with a vengeance. So
In a good way. And a vengeance in a good way, correct?
Well, that's why I was making
I'm not complaining.
that's why I was making a little bit of a joke that Carson's got nothing else going on, because he definitely does. He's a busy guy.
Well, I'm not getting gray hair for nothing.
That's from the teenagers, though. We know that.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Carson?
Keith,
Yeah.
if I'm sorry, Carson, if I do this every time, but Jill, if I might, and then Carson can chime in. I know that, and I've probably asked this on the last phase too, with this subdivisions up there, I remember that we've had issues with the retention basins up there before, and I can't remember exactly what it was. So is the retention basin, has this all been reviewed by engineering and we're good to have it all down into one? Because I remember there was some issues with that retention basin. And then part 2 to the question, we don't need to have open space anymore, or that was part of the issue before, was the retention basin had to do something to do with open space or something, and that doesn't need to be addressed at this time anymore, or does it? So just bring me up to space. There was some issue with that retention basin and open space. Carson, can you help me out or bring me up to date on those 2 questions, Jill?
The detention basin, Dana and Tyson and the group has looked at it, reviewed it, and we feel comfortable with that it will be adequate and it should be just fine. The open space,
We've never had a requirement for open space.
Not on this one, but there was a requirement for Deercrest, but Harrisville never
Yeah.
had one.
Okay, so this isn't tied into that same detention or any of that space down into that.
Deercrest has its own and it's a cluster, so that's why we require the open space.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know if there was a open space requirement. Thank you.
Oh, you're good.
Bill, what's the meter rate from our retention basins into our storm drain? Is it 1.5 inch, 2 inch?
The percolation rate?
So the water that retains in the detention ponds, you have it metered before it goes into the storm drain?
I don't.
It varies per the thing, and I don't remember exactly. I don't know if we've looked at this one exactly. They sized it when they did the overall subdivision, for
it's
the whole
based on-
subdivision.
For the whole, all the phases?
All phases, yeah, and they installed it and sized it appropriately. A detention basin, different from a retention basin, you don't want a whole lot of water sinking into the ground. Some will, obviously, but a detention pond is meant to just hold it in the pond itself and then slowly let it go back out into the regular system. So
That's correct. That's why I'm saying metered. It usually holds and allows just a little bit in so it doesn't overwhelm the storm drain.
with the restricted orifice, that's right. I don't know what the rate is there, but they do have that sized appropriately. So we're confident that that's fine the way it is.
Okay. You always worry because the more hardscape, obviously, the water has to go somewhere, so.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about this, and too bad Brent's gone, but well, maybe he's still here. But anyway, this area is all sand almost all the way down to the center of the earth, and so if you poured a gallon of water on there, it would just sink right down into it. Of course, it then pushes out down around Sarah's house, but that's where the water goes and where it comes from. So.
Okay, any other questions?
All the more reason to make sure that not too much goes in at one time.
Yep, exactly.
That's why I asked if it was metered, and now I guess the follow-up question is that, can that be re-engineered to allow a larger orifice if needed?
If needed, and there are overflows that if there's in the event of a extremely large storm, there are overflows that take it down natural channels and drainages. But the main water, and if you were to go up there, it actually flows pretty much all the time, right, Carson? I mean, that's every time I've been up there, I've heard water gurgling down through those grates at the bottom of that thing, and that's just groundwater infiltrating in through and having it function the way it's supposed to. But it's kind of an impressive structure.
And that has an adjustable outlet control.
Okay.
So
Okay.
if needs be, it can be opened up.
Like a head gate.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, commissioners, any questions for Carson or staff? If not, I'll entertain a motion that we propose to approve or deny to City Council item number 2 on the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve item number 2 on the agenda.
I'll go ahead and second it.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? No, then all in favor say aye.
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 And any opposed? Thank you, Carson. Thanks
Thank
for what
you.
you're doing up there. Looks great.
Appreciate it.
Okay, item number 3 on the agenda is discussion decision on a conditional use for preschool tumbling for children located at 879 West Pleasant View Drive, Suite B, parcel 17-062-0073. The applicant is Candace Benyon, and this is the lower portion of the straw market. I'd say basement, but the lower portion of the straw market. So Jill?
Okay. Okay, so here's Straw Market, Pleasant View Drive, just so you know where it's at. So their entrance would be right here. Correct me if I'm wrong, Candace, okay? Parking would be right behind, and so the requirement is 1 parking stall for every 10 students. And she doesn't have very many students in each class, but she has multiple classes. So at any given time, the parking she has for the preschool is adequate. So we're fine with that. And it has her, she has 3 classes on Monday, 2 on Tuesday, 1 on Wednesday, 2 on Thursday, 1 on Friday. So here you can see the schedule of her classes. She was nice enough to kind of give me a time frame, which is awesome. And here's her pick up and drop off design and idea. There's my mouse. So they would come in right here, and Nick graded it for her so that it's easy to drive down here, drop them off, and pull out this way, and then back up. So, and it should be pretty quick and easy to drop off, and then they have the access to actually drive through here and do the same thing if needed.
So 3 stalls maximum will be required?
I believe that they have 4. I drove over there and looked, and I want to say it's been a week. Candace, isn't there 4 stalls in the back?
I think Nick could tell you better what he planned that out for, but I think there's 3.
Okay, 3. Maybe I was standing about right about here. And it looked like there was quite a bit. But there's plenty of parking right here for, you are the only employee, correct?
Yeah, that as of right now, I'm the only employee.
So as more kids come, or the classes get bigger or whatnot, we would have to relook at the parking, which Candace and I can easily work on that as she grows. So, and it meets all the conditions that we have on file. So
You require those stalls to be asphalt, correct?
we don't have that in our code right now, so no.
Is that an old picture? Because I was there today, and the parking lot looks a lot better than that.
It does. I just don't have a drone to go up and take pictures. What the internet gives me. But I did go right down there, and it actually looks really nice.
It looks really nice. I was really
impressed. Plenty of parking down here for.
Yeah, that boat is gone. That's going to be our little outdoor play space that we planted grass.
And there were cars that were parked. Oh, I'm pointing at it. You guys can't see me pointing. Anyway, there were cars parked up there, and it just looked really nice. I was impressed.
It does. It looks nice. He graded it really nice for her, and it's pretty flat.
Yeah.
So again, we don't have any conditions on file that she's not been compliant with. Everything looks fine. So staff is recommending approval.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to my question, a site plan. And we're not approving a site plan, we're only approving the application for the preschool, I get that. But a business should have safety, each site in relation to each other, the traffic circulation. And I'm looking to see if asphalt, I know that it'll be asphalt in the near future, whatever that means, but I just want to make sure we don't have a safety issue with
Having it road based.
having soft skate used for parking and dropping off children in the winter time where there might be 2 or 3 feet of snow.
It is required for Ryan to sign off on the business license, which he has, and he says it's fine.
Okay, so he'll maintain that strictly because obviously liability is an issue.
Yes, it is required as she renews every year just to have him come out and look and verify to make sure that, the safety of the kids at Pleasant View, it's important. So we make sure that's taken care of.
Okay, good. The other question that I would have is when we talked about the used car lot, we talked about the size of the sign. So is that same sign size suggested for the preschool tumbling? Because
we don't have anything on file, so we can't necessarily require anything at the moment. I mean,
I'm just trying to get consistency in our city.
I would agree. So when we do present those conditions, that would be something I would suggest. Anything within that zone having that same size. But because there's nothing on file, we can't make her.
So Candace would be grandfathered, correct? So the size of her existing sign is permitted? Go ahead, Candace. If you would, please state your name and address so we can ask you questions directly.
Sure. I'm Candace Benyon, 3979 North, 550 West.
Okay, so the sign issue is one that I've heard from several citizens that it's really large. To me, it makes no difference. I mean, really, my personal opinion is, but as we talked about the used car lot, we had a specific height and width, which I thought was very small, incidentally. I think we need to change that for sure. But then to look at the size that you have, which I think is 8 by 12, maybe.
It is 16 by 4, I believe.
Okay, so significant. So if we was to ask you to reduce that, are you willing to do that? Or Bill, can we make that request? I mean,
Sure, you can make it a request as long as it's couched in those terms. Making a condition of approval is problematic because it's not currently in our code. But we can kind of say, hey, it would be awesome as a good neighbor if you would keep it under this size, and they would take that under advisement.
This
Okay.
is,
I'm sorry, Candace, go ahead.
oh, sorry, no. I was just gonna say, this is the first I've heard of the sign issue. So I wasn't aware of this before, but yeah.
Well, I want to apologize to you for how we kind of done things backwards. In this case, we have certainly have had the cart before the horse, and so I apologize, and for the inconvenience that it's caused you. So I would ask that you would consider, if you could, reducing the size of the sign just so it's not so glaring. But I guess we can't require that until we have a signage ordinance in place. But you would be grandfathered, obviously, if we approve this. So,
Okay.
is that something you're willing to discuss or ponder?
I guess we can discuss that when we reach that point.
Bottom line is, yes, it's something we'd be willing to discuss. However, we're already invested in it, and there's been some fees that have come up that we weren't anticipating. And so if you'll bear with us, when we're able, we'd be happy to comply.
Thank you. And we'll certainly bear with you. We know that I said I've apologized, but I think you're in for the long haul, and we're hoping that you'll have a great, successful business there. As we have a place for our children to learn and have tumbling activities. That sounds awesome. Okay, commissioners, any questions for Candace?
Keith, may I piggyback onto your sign question?
Please.
Jill, if you can help me out with the signs out on the sidewalk we have, is that not also into the sign ordinance as far as what signs can be out on the sidewalks?
Sidewalk, what signs? Do you have an example? I have my book. I'm just trying to figure out exactly what you're saying.
Well, there's currently signs out there in between the sidewalk and the road that they currently are using.
Okay.
I want to make sure what stipulations are going to be allowed in that residential commercial zoning.
Are they flag signs?
I don't want to end up having signs there that are allowed, not allowed, and then we don't talk about the stipulation now, and then next week we end up with flag lots or flag signs that aren't allowed, like people are using down 2700. And I want to make sure that we talk about what are allowed and not allowed, because
That's good.
I'd rather be upfront with it first.
Don't we currently prohibit flag signs?
Yeah, but we don't enforce it.
I've called and talked to them there. They said that they're going to take it down.
Well, we've got three businesses doing it now, so.
See, if I'm not notified, I don't send anything. I don't necessarily drive everywhere. I go home, go to work, go to home.
So I just wondered about the type of signs that are along that corridor. Are we gonna have, or do we allow all the signage that's along the corridor other than the monument sign that's currently there?
I'm pulling up the signs really quick. 58.
I know that we
hashed over that ordinance pretty hard, and so I just wanted to make sure that we're upfront with the potential business owners so they understand what's available.
Okay, so temporary signs. That's what it would be under. That's definitions, construction. Sorry, I'm going as quick as I can.
Oh, you're good. I just remember that we
did go through it, and I've been talking to, there it is, to Laurie and a couple other, I've actually talked to some developers to see what would be easier. And so that will be part of the zoning one that Dana and I and Tyson are working on. So, temporary signs, Lisa, building, business banners, pennants, and displays for promotional or special events are allowed no more than 30 consecutive days at one time. There must be a minimum of 30 days in between each set. So,
up for 30, down for 30, up for 30, down for 30.
yep, so they are permitted, but within a certain time frame.
And I know that we discussed, and I know this has not gone to the city council, but we talked about not having flag signs at all. They're kind of, I gotta be careful because I'm speaking personal opinions, but I don't like them on Riverdale Road. I don't like them on Washington Boulevard. I don't like them on 2700 North or 89 or Pleasant View Drive. But there again, I think our hands are tied a little bit, and we're gonna have to work on this, Bill and Jill and Commissioner, so we don't have these kind of public awkward moments, if I can use that definition.
No, that's fine.
Can I ask a clarifying question on that?
Yes.
For the 30-day on off, is that if the sign was up for 30 days, then it's required at that point to be taken down for 30 days? Or what if it was not up consecutively for 30 days? At what point does the 30 days down come into play?
Or could you do like a 15-day on, 15-day off? Or is it strictly,
No, you can do 5 and 5, 10 and 10. It just says
it needs to be equally,
maximum of 30 and then a maximum.
It cannot exceed 30,
okay.
but it has to be down.
So it's kind of a 50% of the time up.
Well, that's the question, because it doesn't word it that way. It says if we get to 30 days, then we have to give a 30-day break. But what if we don't get to 30 days?
Well, it says no more than 30 days, consecutive days at a time. There must be a minimum of 30 days in between each 30-day period. So if you get to 30, then you have to do 30. If you do 5, you wait 5.
No,
Is that how?
Is it per event, or is it per business, or is it for certain things, or is it needs to be more
what
direct
section
and
are you looking in?
specified. It really does. This is unfair to the
71.
1871.
My interpretation of that is for an event, for a specific event, that a sign can be up for 30 days, but at the point that it hits 30 days, there must be a 30-day reprieve. However,
Yeah, keep going.
I don't see, or the opportunity, the loophole, whatever it is that you want to call it, is if we're not up for 30 consecutive days, then we're not creating the burden, the visual burden, if you will, to the community of a 30-day sign up. Therefore, we're not being required to give the 30-day reprieve because it's not a consecutive 30 days.
so I think
Yeah, that makes sense.
Visual burden of a
I
consecutive.
think that makes
30
sense. The idea is to not necessarily restrict you guys from putting signs up and having them up and advertising your events or business in a temporary way. But the idea is that if you're up for 30 days, you should be down for a commensurate 30 days. So I would say that if you're up for 15, it ought to be down for a commensurate 15.
So I think that makes sense, but that is not how it's worded.
It's a little bit ambiguous. The verbiage is exactly what Jill read. There must be a minimum of 30 days between each 30-day period. And so if there's less than 30 days, is the commensurate rest period also reduced? And I would say probably yes. I think that's
But
Fair and
Bill,
reasonable.
if it doesn't say that, how can you say what you're saying?
Yep.
You can't just decide that that's what it means unless it actually says that.
So here again, we're opening up our laundry and we don't want to do that right now.
So I think it would be safe to say, so Sarah and Bill and Keith, if it is up a max of 30 days, it has to be taken down and held for 30 days. If you don't get up to 30, then as long as you take it down, you can put it back up again in the future because it does not have a specific set of days to wait. Correct? Is that how y'all are reading this?
That's not how I read it, but I will certainly go along with that. If you want it to be 7 and 7 and 10 and 10 or 5 and 5, that's fine.
Yeah, but
These
you're
are
interpreting it. But Keith, that the way that that's going is then you could have it up 29, take it down 1 and go back and do 30.
I agree.
And
That's how it reads.
no, that's what you're trying to say, that, and I totally disagree with that's not the way I would have read it then. I go with what Bill's saying. If you go 5, then you got to go 5, or if you go 10, 10, 15, 15, it's within that 30 window. You got to give and take 30, 30. I think when we wrote it, that's what the intention of it was.
Okay, I can see where you're coming with Andy. Sarah is also correct at the aspect is we need to be a little bit more specific.
Please know that it's not our intention to exploit that either. We're just
No.
trying to understand.
No.
You guys are doing awesome, and to be fair to you, you're just trying to do what you're supposed to be doing, and with the information that you've received, from the city, and moving forward, this is some actually good exercise for the city to say, hey, we need to make sure that our ordinances are clear and precise and direct so that there's no questions for you and you don't end up frustrated in this process of coming to planning commission and city council of what your expectations are. The expectations need to be set at the time of application and at the time with your first conversation with whomever you have at the city, that everybody's on the same page, the expectation is set, and there's, that would make a fair process for you and for the city. And we don't, like he said, end up having these situations of, okay, who is right and who is wrong and how do we want to read this? That should never ever come up in these type of meetings. It should be clear and precise and the expectation set. So yes.
You're absolutely right, Sarah. And I just want to add to that these kinds of situations maybe haven't ever come up before. And so there's never been, it's never been a question of, hey, what happens if we only do 15 days? Do we only have 15 days after that? So
Perhaps others are smarter than us and they ask forgiveness rather than permission.
well, either that or, it's just they put it up for 30 days and then they take it down for 6 months. And then they put it up for 30 days and have a grand opening or a fall sale and then they take it down. And it's just never been a thing.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's not a thing until it is a thing. And if no one complains about it, then it's not a big deal. But if it's a question and it's a good question, and you guys are trying to keep the rules, and I appreciate and respect that very much. But the rules are obviously not written very well, and they're written for situations that are maybe other than what you've asked and anticipated for your business. So these are all things that we try to iterate our way through and figure out as we go along the process. So it's a great question, and obviously there's some revision that needs to be done. So I appreciate that.
So for the venue, you have the sign down as long as you have it up. So if it's 10 and 10 or 5 and 5, 30, 30, 25, 25, are you willing to meet that or to follow that guideline, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So it's a moot point then. Thank you. All right. Any other questions for the applicant? And if not, then I'll entertain a motion that we approve or deny the conditional use for the preschool tumbling for children located at 879 West Pleasant View Drive, as stated. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion to approve as stated.
Thank you, Dean. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Alicia, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Dean, you oppose? You made the motion. You better not oppose.
No, I said aye. I was having problems unmuting.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, thank you. Good luck, Mr. and Mrs. Benyon. We wish you much success. Any successful business in Pleasant View is successful for all citizens and residents. So thank you.
Thank you.
Candace, I will let Debbie know so she can get that process now.
Okay, great.
Okay?
Thanks.
All right.
Good luck, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, item number 4 on the agenda is a discussion decision on attached accessory apartment located at 4015 North, 900 West, parcel 16-0161-0001. The applicant is Ken Wilson and Herman Loxon. I hope I pronounced that right. Jill?
Okay. All right, so this is located at the corner of 4000 and 900 West. I've actually driven past it. It's a very nice house.
It is.
So just to kind of let everyone know what is required, to have an attached accessory, we ask them to, we require an inspection to make sure our inspector Sean goes out and makes sure that everything fits our requirements for attached accessory, which are the size. It can't be less than 300 square feet, no more than half the house. There has to be adequate parking, a separate entrance. The appearance has to still look like a home. It can't look like a duplex or things like that. And then the overall safety of the apartment, so whoever rents it is still safe. And as you can tell, they passed. Woo! So here's the home, and as you can tell, there's a driveway here, and I spoke with the applicant. The renters have an entrance just down here. They have a walkway that goes down and into the home there. They would be allowed to park on the driveway, and then also the homeowners would also park there. The driveway is long, and then as you can tell, there's a garage. Here's the layout. So here's 900, here's 4000. The entry would be over here. There's kitchen, bedrooms, and a bathroom area. Actually a pretty big apartment.
It's very nice.
So overall, I mean, with inspection, and the inspection is detailed as such. And I drove past there. It is adequate. It is correct with the parking and the entrance on what I could see without going in. So staff is recommending approval, so they could have that rentable for tenants.
Oh, I have one question on the stairs. Does that door, it's required to be locked, correct?
Yes. That's part of the safety for the homeowners. So that way the tenants don't go upstairs
And vice versa.
correct,
Unless it's a family member, and then nobody will really care, so.
correct.
All right, straightforward. Is the applicant present?
I believe so. I thought I saw. Maybe, did he not make it? He said he was going to make it.
Ken, are you with us?
We have a couple. Is it Kent? Is that Kent Scoville or?
It's Ken Wilson and Herman Fox.
I'm assuming he didn't make it. He said he was going to try and make it. And I don't have any people waiting for the meeting. I'm assuming he didn't make it. He was planning on being here.
This is pretty straightforward. Commissioners, any concerns? I know that we always like to have the applicant present, but
And I did tell him to be here.
yes.
This didn't need to be a public hearing, did it? We didn't get any
No.
public.
No.
This is just an administrative item. So it's just a public hearing, or not hearing, sorry, public meeting.
Okay, questions, commissioners, any concerns? If not, I'll entertain a motion that we approve or deny the accessory apartment located at 4015 North, 900 West.
Seeing that all the recommendations and all the inspection notices have been met, I will make recommendation that we move to pass as so read as with the staff recommendations.
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thanks, Dane. We got you this time. All right, item number 5. Decision on the lot line adjustment at 1063 West, 4000 North, parcel 16193-0019 and 16193-0020. Applicant is Ron and Linda Scoville. Jill.
Okay. We're almost to the end, guys. I don't know about you, but I'm excited. Okay. So this is located, the bottom of 1075, which is, remember up here is Harris Hills, so you can kind of get a general direction where it's at. And right here is 4000, and here's 1050. So it's this corner. There's 2 parcels. It doesn't show that in this one, but there are 2 parcels. Both of them are owned by the Scovilles. The frontages won't change, just an FYI, and I'll show you the layout. It just decreases the size of the lot a little bit on the west lot. I'm gonna go down. There we go. So here's the 2 lots. And right here is the lot line adjustment. So I blew it up so you guys could see. They're just moving it over just a little because what he's wanting to do, he owns both lots. He wants to have a building on the one side with the home. And he needs a little bit more frontage on the side. So his idea was to pop this out just a little. And both lots meet the requirements.
100 feet.
Mm-hmm. There's 108, I believe. 108, and that one's 148. I mean, everything matches. We don't have any issues with the lot line. To record it, there's a couple of corrections, but overall, we're fine with it. Staff is, let me rephrase that, staff is fine with it.
You're good. Is the applicant with us, Bill?
Yes.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Ron, welcome.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any questions? Oh, first of all, Ron, if you'd please state your full name and address.
Ronald Kent Scoville, I go by Kent. 1063 West, 4000 North, Pleasant View, Utah.
Thank you, Kent. Commissioner?
And we got to hear it for those guys that go by their middle names.
Hey. Unless your middle name's Dwayne, and then now if I just offended any Dwaynes, I apologize.
Hey, I go by my middle name.
There you go.
I knew that, Ashley. Okay, any questions for the applicant or for staff? It looks pretty straightforward to me. And this is an easy one. So we'll entertain a motion for approval or deny of the lot line adjustment at 1063 West, 4000 North, the 2 parcels lot line adjustment. Do I have a motion?
Go ahead and make a motion for approval of the lot line adjustment.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you,
This is
Dino.
Dean.
We can see you, bud.
Aye.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And then,
Aye.
Aye.
okay, Kent, congratulations. Go forward, please.
Thank you.
Ken, I will email you what will, just make sure you make the corrections and then we can have, Key sign it, we can get that recorded,
Great. Thank you.
okay?
Okay. That'll close our public meeting. Now we'll go into item 6, commission communications. Have we gone offline with YouTube?
No,
Do we
No, we're
keep
still
that
in a
running?
public meeting. There, YouTube stays on.
yeah.
Okay, so I can air my dirty laundry right now?
You can air all of it.
So, you know, I feel, and we've discussed this before, I feel we've done the Benyons a disservice and I feel bad. They want to run a business. I'm concerned that we are allowing parking without asphalt. I know that that's one of the things that we discussed with all businesses, that there is asphalt parking provided. And I'm concerned about the flags because I know we spent a lot of time discussing how we did not like flag signs. And so all this work that we have done, it hasn't ever gone forward for approval to city council. So we have to fall back to the existing ordinance. I just feel like we've wasted a lot of time. And maybe it's not wasted. It's just where are we in the process of having all of these discussions approved by city council so they can be adopted into our ordinances?
Well, to be very honest, Dana, me, and Tyson are redoing the zoning. We are putting the signs into the zone in each zone. So it's easy to say, okay, here's, if they want a development or whatever, here's your zone, this is what it tells, this is your restrictions. And some of the commercial ones will get a lot bigger due to the conditions that we will be putting on there. So it will be coming. I'm currently working on a couple of them. Tyson is wanting to have a professional planner that specializes in some of the water things, protection, things like that, so we can redo A5 or where A5 currently is to help protect the sensitive areas, we'll put it that way, wherever it may be. So that's where we're at, to be honest.
And I know you're busy. I know staff is busy. I know that this time everybody's really busy, but I'm just going to go back to, we spent hours and hours and hours going through each one of these items, and here an applicant comes forward and we can't enforce any of them because they haven't been adopted by city council. And that's kind of frustrating, as you mentioned, Jill, to the applicant, to the planning commission, and possibly city council. Well, obviously staff as well.
Yeah.
So can I get a commitment, please, that we can have a meeting, a joint discussion, that we can start getting this moving forward in a timely fashion?
You bet. I will talk to Laurie and we'll get an email going between you, me, Laurie, and the mayor, and Bill, obviously, to see when we can get that going.
Okay, and then
I will go ahead and spearhead that one.
thank you. Can we make?
Looks like Dean has a comment.
Okay, I'm sorry, Dean, go ahead.
I would like us to consider the option of getting rid of the time clauses on the banners and on the flags. Two reasons is, one, we don't have a way to monitor it, and the second, we don't have a way to enforce it. And if we just limit the amount of square footage that they can use as advertising square footage, if they want to put it out on the street on a bunch of 8x10s, let them give them a fixed amount of square footage that they can advertise and let it ride, because we don't have the resources or the time to try and monitor how long somebody's sign is up and how long it's rested and enforce all that. That doesn't make any sense.
I absolutely agree. That was a terrible discussion. And you're right, we can enforce them, but prior to you being a member of the planning commission, we talked, all of us were kind of opposed or against flag signs, only because they fade to become ugly and obnoxious. When you first put them in, they're nice and bright and they turn and swirl and they get people's attention. And then 6 months down the road, after the sun is beat on them and the weather's beat on them, now they're this ugly thing that's not advertising anything. It's just a thing. So that's personally why I don't like them. But I do agree with the square footage of this much signage is allowed. Let them put it where it's allowed and let it ride.
Well, you do two things when you do that. If you restrict the square footage and you give them X amount, and a business isn't into spending money and advertising that doesn't work, right? So if those signs dry up and blow away or rot in half or whatever, they're going to get tired of buying them. They're going to use the square footage that makes the most sense. You see it with the mobile stores all the time, the cellular stores and the vape shops and all that, where they don't have a restriction on what goes on. It makes it impossible. But if they're compliant with their square footage and we figure out what formula is going to work, then it's much, much easier to maintain and enforce, and the business is going to stop investing in stuff that doesn't work or that isn't durable.
It's kind of like form-based code for signs. Form-based code puts kind of like the idea you put in your streets and you restrict your area, then the only natural consequence is what they would actually, what you would want to see and what they would, invest, like what you're mentioning, Dean. If you put the restrictions on the area, then the rest will fall into place.
That's part of the reason why, and Laurie and I were talking, and I've talked to some of the developers, that's why we're gonna put the sign part in the zones. So you're not gonna want a big sign in a neighborhood commercial. You'll want a bigger sign on, available for a commercial that's on the corridor, on 2700, 89, not necessarily over by Straw Market or over by where Grandma's Closet used to be. Those type of signs, you want them smaller. So again, like Sarah and Dean, you want it custom to what type of location you want.
Well, I agree with all of that. My point is, when do we get it in place so these discussions aren't happening during the application?
And to that, Keith, I also agree with that. And I appreciate Jill and Tyson and Dana going over the things that were discussed in, planning commission and stuff with addressing the ordinances and zones to make sure that they don't contradict or conflict. Because if it were to go straight to city council as is, then you end up with a product that's even more confusing and have way more awkward discussions here at planning commission and city council, where you don't have a code that's clear, precise, defined, so that the expectation is set with people who come in and also with staff, and everybody's on the same page. So if Jill and Dana and Tyson don't fix that, then you wouldn't want to adopt it. You want things to be done the right way. And I agree with you too. Planning commission needs to meet with city council, and you've been asking for it for the last, 2 years, and we still haven't met together. And we should be meeting together quarterly and having strategy sessions, meeting together with city council and planning commission and staff and everybody on the same page. We're a team, for heaven's sakes. Let's be a team and work together for the common goal of this city, so that there is no questions. We have it all together. And as new council members and planning commissioners come in and everything, that we are fluid, we're together, we're meeting often, so that when the time that legislative and recommendations come up, we already know what's coming, man. We already have that on board, and it's just a matter of procedure, because we've met. Yeah.
It's professionalism, and it provides for the city, and it
It's
makes
consistent.
it for the applicant to meet the conditions.
Yep.
Makes it a lot
Sure
easier.
does.
To agree.
Absolutely.
So here's my question.
Okay.
Because I know it's gonna get asked. What, for your first workshop, what topic do you wanna focus on? Because if we have too broad of a thing, it's gonna take forever. So I suggest if you guys wanna come up with,
I have one.
what?
This is the suggestion for any business. What is allowed and what is not? Is asphalt paving required What's the square footage size for the signage? Where can it be placed? If we can at least take care of that one, that'll help with a lot of our commercial developers.
So do you wanna talk about commercial, and then I can kind of get some things together so we can talk about that, and that would be part of it?
Please.
Okay.
For me, I'm just speaking for myself. Commissioners, open your mouths, please.
Would that go in line with what our city standards are too? You know,
Right.
that, yeah, so they would be a partnership.
Well, what my brain is thinking, and again, Bill knows, my brain goes everywhere.
You're
For
most endearing
workshop,
quality.
what we'll do is we'll focus on commercial, you know, what your concerns are, especially if we get this going now before a lot more commercial starts coming. You know, what your concerns are, and we can have Tyson go so you guys can talk about the standards, and if you have questions, you know, where that's at, and it actually might give us some good ideas of putting what you guys are wanting in city council, your worries or concerns in the code as we update and change them.
Yeah, so for me, there again, I'm just opening my mouth because I always have something to say, but we need to look at, you know, litigation. We need to protect the city. We need to protect the business owner, safety. If there's an accident, because there again, we don't have asphalt or hardscape, and the city is sued, are we liable because we knew that was a potential problem and we allowed it? So on my line of work, we don't even allow that stuff unless all the safety requirements are first. So we don't want it to be a burden on the applicant, but we want every business to have a code of ordinances that are viable and a win-win for all involved. So however we do that, but can I suggest we get rolling quickly?
Yep, and I will actually email everybody first thing in the morning.
Thank you.
No problem.
Commissioners, any of your concerns? What would you like to see us discuss or do, or?
Were there any critical items on a calendar basis that we needed to rush through before something comes down the pipe? Because I thought there were one or two that we needed to have addressed and get to the city council before they came to us. And I still haven't seen any of those come back to us. Do we need to parcel some of those out, address those on a one-by-one basis, and then get them sent to the city council?
Which ones are you talking about?
Weren't we talking some of the A5 or some of the areas up in that area before we got them readdressed to us?
I have one, 2700. You guys need to get that moving forward on rezoning all of it to our future land use and general plan to commercial. That you guys could work on that.
Way to jump the gun. I was going to talk about that next.
Sorry.
And I certainly agree with that. And
But that has to come from you guys, and that, you know, as a recommendation to city council. Well, it doesn't have to, it should, as a recommendation, proper procedure here. But I know that other council members, as well as myself, feel that that is an important move and step to set the expectation and get the property set. So when developers come in, there's no confusion and there's no, oh, oops, we should have rezoned that before that, you know, that needs to be taken care of. We had a great presentation by John Ulibarri. Thank you, Jill, to have that Weber County assessor come and present before city council of the benefit. He gave us the facts. Yes, it would cost the property owners more, but it also makes the property more valuable, and it gives them an incentive to sell and people to invest and to develop commercially.
Come forward to the planning commission as well. I think we did.
Say that again. John Ulibarri.
I don't know if it was John. I think it was the assessor, Weber County assessor. Is that John?
He is the assessor. Yeah.
He did. He gave a presentation.
Oh, that was for planning commission. It wasn't for city council, or did he come for? He did both. I don't remember.
No, Keith, you and I were both at the city council when we watched the presentation.
There, thanks. Yeah, he came before city council.
Oh.
Sorry, my dumb dog.
You're right.
But when you ask him straight up, is this a good move for the city? His straight up answer is Yes. And if you were to ask Sean Wilkinson, the Community Development Director for Weber County, his straight up answer is you need to do something with 2700 and it's prime commercial and you need to take care of it and you need to do it now.
Bill, can we have them scheduled to come forward for a presentation?
The assessor to come to you guys?
The assessor and the county developer.
County.
Sean Wilkinson, the Community Development Director.
Community or county?
Is it county or community, Bill?
He works for the county, so he's the county community development director.
There you go. Both names. He has lots of foof in.
All this information would be very helpful so we can get that vision rolling and just start clicking, firing on all cylinders.
Done. I got it written down and I'll get that working.
Jill, you're amazing. Bill, thank you.
He is amazing.
I'm trying.
Any other concerns? Commissioners, this is our time to have communication. What are your concerns?
I've had a few people ask me about like getting streetlights here and there or speed limit signs. How do I bring that up?
I would have them call me and give me locations and then we can talk about it.
Okay.
Pleasant
It's just
View
with all the break-ins that have been happening, a couple people have asked me like, oh, well, we don't even have a street light on our street. And I said, I like that, but I do understand like having a beat rider.
Don't we? Isn't that currently required for all?
Oh, it's been required for some time. It's some of the older streets don't have them or they may be burned out. But we've gone through a whole process of identifying new streetlights and a program. Alicia was actually part of that, instrumental in that. And so we've gone through a whole process of picking one out and putting together a plan to get those replaced throughout the city. But if there are specific areas that are of more immediate concern, I think it would be good to bring that to Jill and Tyson's attention and we can get that looked at.
Perfect.
I agree with Ashley. I've heard that over and over and over. There's no street lights anywhere in Pleasant View except for the newer developments. And they're right. There isn't.
It's a good place to come break in.
I have a very dim one down at the end of my street.
There are some lights, they're far and few between. It doesn't help that the poles are brown, so they blend in with trees. But the cool thing is, we're gonna make it look awesome.
I trust
You just wait.
I think we're going in the right direction. I really feel good about it. So, any other concerns? Alicia, you're front and center, so you must have breathed hard for the camera to turn on. Okay.
Got nothing.
All right. Then I guess staff communication and training.
Okay, Bill, do you want to go first? Because I got a list.
Just a couple of thoughts really quick. First off, I wanted to apologize if I made anyone confused about my intentions on the email I sent out earlier this week. There was some concern that I might have been promoting a particular viewpoint or trying to influence the discussion or anything like that. I apologize if I came off as something other than neutral on these things. It's only ever my intention to inform a discussion, broadly speaking, and not speak to when I send out these kinds of things, which I have done in the past. It's my intention to bring up topics for conversation and discussion and thought more than try to inform a decision necessarily. So again, if I came off as other than that, I sincerely apologize because that was definitely not my intention. So
But for me personally, I thought it was great information and I'm glad you shared it with us and thank you. I mean, those are the things that we need to look at. How much does it cost? What's affordable housing? What does it look like in other counties and communities? So it was a benefit.
Well, and our city is doing great things and making efforts to comply with state code and other things that way. So we're doing what we can do. My thought and intention for that, and again, I apologize if it didn't come across this way, but the intention was to just keep the conversation and thought alive rather than any specific or intentional anything. So I apologize for that. I also,
I really, just to that, I really liked what Julie had sent in the email, you know, her comments and stuff of, yes, it's an important thing to keep, but I also liked her perspective of maybe the cart before the horse analogy of building the conducive environment that would support that type of thing. And it's too bad she's not here, because I thought that her analogy and her way of looking at it was really great perspective with commercial development and attracting that and building that type of infrastructure with, you know, walking to a bus station and things like that to support that type of housing, and, you know, also support the community. It's a twofold, and I just appreciated her perspective of bringing that full circle.
Yeah, and it's definitely not an either or kind of a question. It's a both and proposition. If you ask business owners, and I have, and developers and commercial developers and things like that, the number one thing they want to see is rooftops. They want to see households, and, you know, household income is great and traffic counts are great, and those are all important, and we have those actually. But the number of rooftops is significant as well, and so it's a both and kind of a proposition, and we'll work together hand in glove as we go through these processes, and development will be awesome in Pleasant, I'm sure of it. The other thing is I wanted to touch on tonight. We had a little bit of a situation where there was some question about a provision in the code on an application, and my request would be, and I'm sure Jill would echo this as well, if you have, and it's not always possible to anticipate questions that will come up in the meeting as you're going through things, but if you have specific thoughts or concerns or questions about the code or the application or interpretation of the code, if you would reach out to us before the meeting happens, that helps us be prepared to answer those questions either in the meeting, or maybe we can help you with them offline. Oftentimes these questions are good for the whole council, or the whole planning commission rather, to discuss and know about all together. And so, you know, it's not wrong to have a discussion or a question about it in the planning commission meeting itself. But if you would give staff a little time to research that and prepare a response ahead of time, if you could think of it, that would be very helpful to Jill and I, so that when it comes to meeting time, we're not scrambling trying to run through and grab different sections of the code. We do know the code pretty well, but it's a big code, as Jill's holding up.
I came prepared this time.
Well, and I've got it here.
My wonderful book.
I've got it here myself. And, you know, we've got it on our computers and things.
I've got it here myself.
It's a big document.
You want me to share my screen? It's right on my screen.
So I can stop really quick, because what you're saying is right. And that's why I personally was so not shocked, but I was surprised that we did not address the asphalt on the parking, because we discussed that at length with the used car lot, and knowing that there were businesses in the basement. And the flag signs, again, we discussed at great length a year ago.
I'm showing that every parcel of land hereafter used as a parking lot now, but that's a specific use, as a parking lot, shall be paved with asphalt or concrete, and have lighting and all of that stuff. But that's specifically for.
So parking. Then what is that they're using? Isn't it a road, and aren't all roads paved?
Roads, but driveways?
Yes.
For business?
I don't know about driveways.
There are actually quite a few businesses that are not paved or asphalted. They're older businesses. The problem is, if someone comes and buys that and it's the same use, we can't make them update or do anything. That's the problem that we have, where it's not a new building. You know, if it was a brand new building and it was in our code right now on the paper, then yeah, we could do that.
But it's a new use. And when you have a new use in a grandfathered building, what I've been told, if it's a new use, it starts the clock again. It's not it doesn't revert back to what it was allowed to do. Now you're doing something different. So therefore now you have to comply.
That's how UDOT will treat you.
Yes.
Yes, but the building is there, it's existing, we can't make them change the building.
No, but you can make them, the new use change what they're doing. You absolutely can. You can make them adhere to all the new conditions that everybody else has to.
Right, but it's not on the books right now, so
They're
we
not there right
can't
now.
make them right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I'm just saying, how would you interpret that little runway thing? Is that a driveway? Is it a parkway? Is it a street? What is it? It's a driveway. So when a person comes in to build a building, I'm just curious, do they have to, like a house, do they have to put some sort of impervious,
Yes, but it's within that zone.
okay.
So here's something that I'm just gonna share with you that is going to happen, and I don't really care if it happens. I'm just sharing with you, it will happen. The parking for that preschool and tumbling will be the city parking lot adjacent to the recreation building. And
It
so
will it will default as such. You're right. You're right.
I agree.
So that's why I thought we had this addressed. And so I didn't want to air the laundry with the applicant there, but I was kind of like, wow, we just went through this with Nick a month ago. And that's the next thing. When is his application coming back?
Are you done, Bill?
Phone's on you, Jill.
Okay, let me get my list first, really quick.
Well, does everybody know what is being thought
No.
out? Okay, so you're going to
That's why
tell
I'm
me
gonna
what the thought is. Okay.
But before I get to that, really quick, I did send an email out just to remind you guys and let you guys know, because I know some of you guys aren't aware. When we send emails out, it's fine for me to email you guys out saying, hey, here's the agenda, please let me know if you're gonna be here. Things like that is fine. But if I say, hey, heads up, here you go, great. That's where the conversation kind of has to stop. If all of the planning commissioners are on an email and we start having conversations about codes or things that,
Applications.
yeah, things like that that can come through, I have to actually put an agenda and notice it. So that's why if we do send something out and you have questions, jot it down and we'll talk about it in meetings. And we're totally fine with that. We just want to make sure we stay compliant. So there's one.
Okay.
2, attendance, we're at 6 months, so we're halfway through the year. We have to maintain a 70% out of a 12-month period. Just so you know, there's 2 of you guys that are at 70% already. So be careful, just a heads up.
You know who you are.
If you don't, ask me and I'll tell you. I just don't want to put it on here.
I was gonna say, okay, I'll ask you. But
No,
right.
I'm pretty sure you're at 90, Ashley. Okay, so our next meeting's the 6th, and this is where the whole Nick thing's coming.
Oh, I'm gonna be gone.
Dang it! Anyways,
I thought it was the end of August.
so, well, hear me out.
Now, wait a minute. Can I say something? I'm gonna be in Reno. I can zoom in from Reno,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, zoom in all you want. That's the brilliant thing of Zoom. Okay, we do have a
Wait,
lot adjustment.
Reno on purpose? Gosh.
Well, I have 6 grandchildren there, so yes.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so we do have a lot line adjustment that came through. That's not Nick's. I don't have an application, but we want to put it into the code before we have the application. So hear me out. Online auto sales. I have been requested by city council to write conditions for online auto sales. That would also entail parking and storage uses.
Okay.
So that will be coming on the 6th.
So parking, storage, and
Online auto sales.
online auto sales. So we're talking specifically about,
CP1.
yes, okay.
The tough thing about this, and Keith, And Andy, I know you guys have interest and concern about this. The tough thing about this is that the further we got into unraveling the mystery that is our zoning ordinance, we start pulling on certain threads, and the whole sweater starts to come unraveled. And we did all that work, and it's not lost, it's not gone. We're trying to figure out what to do with this ball of yarn now, and make sure that when we're done, there's a sweater that at least sort of fits, right? If you'll forgive my extension of that metaphor way too far. We want to make sure it's done right. And so, yeah, it's been a process. And in the meantime, we've had pandemics and other things that have come up, and it's just, yeah. So we're going to try to find some money to get some help with this, and get an outside person to look at it. That's tough for me because my pride says I can do it, but obviously I should swallow my pride and realize that sometimes I do need help. And Jill is great at helping, but she's running full out, just trying to keep up with the applications that we have in. And it's, so yeah, that's where we're at. And
see the online, it's favorable. I really want to see Nick and Heidi. I want to see their business succeed. I want it to be, so yes, whatever you.
Well, and Nick and Heidi are really just, and what I'm hearing is that Nick and Heidi are just kind of a microcosm, or like the tip of the iceberg of what's the at issue with our code. And yeah, so yeah.
So that's what's coming on the 6th. Going forward, just so you know, as long as we don't have a meeting like we did tonight where there's 5 things sitting on the agenda that I have to write staff reports for, as long as it kind of goes the way I'm hoping from here on out, you will be having rezone requests start coming for those locations on 2700. We're gonna do a chunk of just the people that own it first. So for example, if there's 2 lots that are owned by the same person, we'll do 2 lots. Does that make sense? Rather than doing the whole thing at once and have a massive chaotic meeting, we're gonna do a chunk at a time. That's part of it. And then go
Can I
ahead.
ask just one question?
Yeah.
Just one thought and I can totally understand why you're going that way, but is there a little bit of a concern that if property owners have concern as you do little chunks at a time and their property hasn't been rezoned yet and they can see the writing on the wall, you might,
Well,
you know what I mean? It is.
We can actually, and I was talking, crap, now I can't think of who I was talking to. We can put a notice out saying your property will be rezoned on this day and this day and this day and this day. So I can actually schedule it out.
So then we're vested. Thank you.
So it is on the books. So that's what I'm planning on doing. So it's not like, oh crap, they're gonna do it, I'm gonna do a building permit. No.
Okay.
And several of the
concern.
property owners adjacent to the properties we're looking to rezone will get notices, but Jill's going to send out notices for each of the subsequent properties as well. So with dates on those, so that we're not stacking all the planning or the public hearings on one night,
right.
But B, we're avoiding having to do duplicate notices for adjacent property owners.
My concern was just doing it in a way that protects the process.
Yes.
And keeps it moving forward without having hiccups. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Along with that, I'm going to start making ordinance/conditions and putting it before you guys, so it can be on the books before more people come.
Great.
So I'm going to start with CP1 and do all the conditions for that one first, because that is our most restrictive. We want to make sure we get what we want to have a neighborhood commercial feel.
So when you're saying we, are you going to bring that to us for discussion, or are you going to make the decision, bring it to us for approval?
Well, if if it's something that I've heard you guys talk about, I will write it up and I'll bring it to you.
Both, and then you
If
can
it's-
discuss it and add or take away.
Yes.
That was a very subtle question there, Keith. I don't know that Jill is all that that nuanced.
That was fair. I think it's a good way. Bring,
No, it's a great question. I just, yeah.
yes,
I'm
bring
gonna
forth
just- yeah.
and
Because of if the decision is going to be made, don't bring it to us, just do it.
Right, so, and then if there's something out there that I'm like, ooh, I don't know what they want, I will bring it part of a meeting, because I will, with my OCD, I am getting to the point where I'm already planning and getting everything ready for the next meeting.
Good, love it.
Yeah.
So
Jill's
I have
fantastic.
a question. I have
Go
a
ahead.
question. If we have all these things on our agenda and we have specific items that Keith has brought up that we need to move forward, why are we going after rewriting specific ones that we already just kind of nixed?
So,
Let's move the specific ones forward that we need to hurry and get addressed before we go back and clean up these custom made ones.
right,
That's what Jill's talking about.
I'm writing the conditions, like, for example, for the,
Well, we don't need to write a custom one. We just addressed the one 2 times in a row. Now we can leave that one while we address all these other ones that we need to get off our plate and get moving.
well, Dana and I and Tyson are working on the zones. So those hopefully are coming faster than,
Then an internet auto shop.
that one, you guys recommended that, so on the 6th, when we go online auto sales, I'm gonna put that with the CP2 conditions
But
together.
But
to go
why
to
is that
city
getting put
council.
to the top in front of all these other things?
Because
Those
the
are
act
done.
forward again.
I
Because
can
we
tell
have an
you why,
applicant for that.
Andy. Andy, I can tell you why too. It was a request by council. That's why. It's a request.
So we
By-
just, anybody that comes in just requests a custom made things and they're just gonna keep getting whatever. If they keep asking enough, they're eventually gonna get what they want.
No. That was an idea that came with some council members. I was one of them. I will admit to that, of how to make it, because we saw some writing on the wall and it was a request by council to push this forward, pretty much all of the council, and put it before you for discussion. That's why it's coming.
They're trying to help this work.
This work, and if we can do it right, it would work with any neighborhood commercial. But to be fair and honest in the process, there's an applicant, there's a template, and if I can, I'm trying to be ever so careful of how I say this, but it's there and it's coming, and it would come. You could have ended up with CP2 conditions back in CP1. There you go. And so that's why it's coming.
Well, then would that have affected, if we would have known that, would that have maybe have affected the way we voted on having a second business in the floor, in the ground floor tonight?
I don't
Because that might change having 3 businesses there using a driveway and a parking lot.
It might, but you set the conditions forth and then they have to, it's not to make it so that there's not so many businesses, but if you set the conditions forth, he either meets them or he doesn't. That's it. It's not about him necessarily or that business. It's about, this is a new idea. This is a new
But that's
code.
what it's like, is we're trying to make a custom to fit it. It's just going to keep coming back. Make it custom.
Yeah, I see your concerns. I'm just saying, that's why it's coming. It's coming.
So
Okay.
I'll interject here, Nandy, and thank you for voicing. I think what we're doing is we're adapting. And so we're going to talk about an online sale as opposed to a used parking lot. And we'll have conditions for online that will look entirely different than a used parking lot. Because we know of the huge parcel on 600 and Pleasant View Drive. No, nobody wants to see that as a used parking lot. Nobody.
In neighborhood commercial.
Neighborhood commercial, and it's zoned currently the same.
Yes.
So we're going to microcosm forward an online sales that will probably work with the applicant and be beneficial to the city because it'll look good and
In other neighborhood commercial parcels as well. 2700 and CP2 is a whole different story, but neighborhood commercial, we're trying to look at a way if it can work. If it can't, you know, the direction that Jill was given was see what you can do to see if it can work. And then that's what she's bringing. It's not a done deal. She's bringing it before you for discussion. And so
I will let you know, there will be a definition, a difference between a used car lot and online. I promise you that.
well,
And we will require paved and landscaped and all of the other 9 yards.
That's why we're also talking about parking lot and storage.
and we are a planning commission, and planning is to be adaptable. For
And
the
it's
need.
iterative. I mean, there are things that are in existence now that weren't even dreamed of 20 years ago when the code was written. Who could have ever envisioned online car sales 20 years ago?
speaking of articles, because Bill likes those, right?
I did.
No, there's an article on KSL actually that was just put out today that I thought that, oh my gosh, about online used car sales, online car sales, and how the whole thing is changing to, with the COVID and everything, to even more online, and how that looks and how it's flourishing and stuff. And so
So
I
can
just thought it was
say
interesting.
Carbonin?
Pardon?
Familiar with Carbonin?
Yeah.
They actually have kiosks where you can purchase your car and they'll roll around like a
Yeah.
large vending machine and pop out and you drive away with it.
And I know it's crazy. So I think there's room for creativity and adaptability. And if you can make it work, great. If you can't, you just set your conditions, and then, and if the applicant can meet those, great. If he can't, or she, they come before planning commission and ask for, you know, that variance or whatever in city council. And if they get it, or they don't. But Jill, I have the utmost faith in Jill to make a good product with all considerations and bring it before you guys and city council.
Thank you, Sarah.
No pressure,
awesome.
but I really
That's
do.
true.
I really do.
I promise it will be brought before you guys and you guys can rip it to pieces.
Before the meeting, before the.
That's why we're going through this before any application from anybody comes.
I like it.
So, one more thing, and then I'm done. So we found these, we cleaned out our vault.
Who?
Anybody want them? There's two.
What?
One's a large, one's a medium. You want it?
I want one. I want one. Dibs. I want dibs. I want one.
One's a medium. Who wants what?
I'll take one.
There's two. Which one? A medium or a large?
Well, whichever one the other person doesn't want. Are they men's shirts?
I don't know, Bill. Are they men?
I looked at the large and it was either it wouldn't fit me. I'll just say
I'll
that.
take the large. I'll take the large.
There's a medium. Okay, it'll be at the office. You can come get it here 8 to 12 tomorrow.
Thanks, Jill.
So, sorry guys, that was a long meeting, but we're done.
No, I'm
We're starting?
just once again, I want to say thank you. We all feel of your work ethic and trying to keep integrity in the process. You and Bill both do a great job. And we as planning commissioners need to step up to the plate and make sure things are driven and not have them just handed in our lap, but help drive the conversation. So if we could get that vision, I think it'll be a great asset. Our commission will be a great asset to the community.
If I don't have any comments, what if I agree with stuff? And what if before the meeting, I look at everything and I drive by stuff and then I'm like, I like it. I don't have any questions. I think it's good. And when you ask if I have any comments, I don't have any comments.
Then that's okay. I do want to thank Andy. Andy's been calling me every once in a while with questions or concerns, so thank you, Andy. I do appreciate that a whole lot.
And Keith, to speak to what you said, I'm sure that the city council would agree with me. We are looking forward to working with Planning Commission even more so, and being a team, you know, and being on the same page, and expectations are there, and we have those conversations often, and have those, you know, communication lines open with planning sessions. And you know, my thoughts when you finally guys come here and stuff, there is room for discussion, but wouldn't that be great if we all met and you knew what was coming and you could, you know, help drive that thing like you said. So by the time it came for procedural things like this, everybody knows what's coming, and you know what's on the agenda, and you have that, you've already had those discussions, you've already worked out a lot of those things, and that would just be fantastic. Of course, there's always surprises, but
well, the Carson, good example. We knew that was coming. We'd already gone through 1, 2, 3. So this was just a slam dunk. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would just, I just think we have all these talented individuals and have this situation that we could just be the greatest team and have the greatest process so that there's no confusion. And, you know, there's always things that come up. Absolutely. But I think that we could improve on the communication levels and meeting together and planning together and all of that. So
I'm in.
I'm gonna pipe in areas or cities that I've worked in the past.
Okay.
What we're talking about is the norm.
Correct.
It's bizarre to me that, and it's my own fault, but there's planning commission people that I've never even had a conversation with.
Right.
Or city council members.
Right.
City council members.
It's bizarre to me too. And I've been here for 4.5 years, and I have never once, I get to see you guys because that's my assignment, but we have never once met together. And how sad, and how much more beneficial it could have been if we could have worked together. But we're going to learn from our past and move forward differently.
If you guys are good, I'll start putting it on quarterly or however you want it, Keith.
We would like to meet with city council minimally quarterly. And thank you, Nate, because I was on the Layton City Planning Commission for 3 years, and we met every month with the city council. 1 hour before our scheduled planning commission, we would meet every other week like we're doing here. But on the first week, we would spend an hour before our meeting with city council.
How awesome would that be? Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's just nice. You go through the agenda, you're getting people's opinion, you're not driving the conversation, but you're having a joint conversation.
And you can meet with your common goals, the goals of the city and the general plan, and how do we move forth with, you know, planning for the hillside and using Tyson, utilizing our awesome you know, public works director and his thoughts and his experience and his boots on the ground, and also Dana, and using this information together and with Jill and Lori and everybody with these resources to really be proactive with our city. Gosh, we have so much unutilized talent here, and it's unfortunate, but hopefully we'll be better, right?
Absolutely. It's all about a progression, right? We're all in this together, and we're all hopefully moving forward better and brighter.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, can we adjourn?
Wait. There's a movie in the park tomorrow. And if you haven't registered, that's okay. Just come. Movie in the park at Pleasant View Park at 9:15. And Monday, and we've started our food truck giddy ups on the 2nd and 4th Monday at Barker Park. And if you have a request for food trucks, let me know. And the last one was awesome.
Movie is Sonic.
Yes, movie is Sonic. Allison did a poll, and that's what the people wanted when they came last week. So that's what we chose. So
what is it going to be?
Sonic. It's cute. It's cute. You'll like it, Alicia. It's cute.
I've never heard it.
It's cute.
Okay. And if you guys are fine with it, I'll keep sending you guys planning updates every once in a while.
I love those, personally.
Me too.
I love those. You guys are discussing, and I love those. And
those are awesome, Jill. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
We're done.
Thank you. Good night, all. Meeting adjourned.
Thanks,
Okay.
everybody.
Bye, guys.
Have a good night.
Bye. Thanks.
Night all.
Night.